Hello there. This is me trying something new. It's based on something that a friend of mine does, Paul Magrs. Now, he's an author that many of you will know. He's created the amazing Brenda and Effie mysteries. He's done a ton of work within Doctor Who. Since the 90s, he created the character Iris Wildthyme within Doctor Who and beyond. And that's how I know him, really. When I was back at Big Finish producing, I co-produced the Iris Wildthyme Adventures starring the great Katie Manning, co-produced with Mark Wright, and so obviously worked with Paul on that. And one of the things he does on his YouTube channel is that he pops a camera on and just sits and talks about what he's been reading, and they're really lovely videos. There's no sort of flashy editing or graphics or anything. It's just Paul, the camera, his bookshelves, and quite often his cat. I thought I wanted to give it a go myself, so apologies to Paul for just ripping this off completely. I don't have a cat, though. I have guinea pigs, and they're at the minute safely away in their hutches, so you won't see them. You might see them on future videos. And actually, the future is another reason I'm doing this. Later on in the year, I'm planning some more video content, some training sessions, and I've got to get used to this setup of having a camera in front of me, talking to it, because I don't find it particularly natural. I'm a writer. I'm supposed to be in a room, this room, writing words on my own. So talking to camera isn't something I've ever really enjoyed. I've done it, obviously, because it's part of the job, but I want to normalize it. So that's also what this is about. So bear with me. There's going to be lots of ums and ahs, and I'll get many words wrong, probably, definitely. So yeah, so let's have a go. And I hope you enjoy it. So sip of coffee, and then I'll talk about my first book, which is this, Iron Widow by Now. I really want to get this right. I've watched a lot of videos interviewing the author, and pretty much every video I've watched has pronounced their name in a different way. So apologies for that. I think it's Shiren J. Zhao, the Chinese author. This is a YA book that I've had on my shelf for many years, actually, a few years at least. It's I think this is the edition I got with Lumacrate. Yes, it is, and it's beautiful. It's got a lovely spine there. When you remove the dust cover, which has become a bit more battered, there's some amazing art of the characters, and the book itself is gorgeous underneath the cover. So as I said, it's been on my shelf for ages, and I picked it up on a whim recently and devoured it. It's a YA science fiction novel about a planet in the future, I'm assuming in the future, where the society is very much based on traditional Chinese culture. And so there's that nice dichotomy of like future technology, more so in the second book actually, and then this traditional culture with very traditional, a very traditional patriarch culture. Our lead character is amazing. She's, well, let's just say she's complex. She doesn't always do what you expect her to do. She doesn't always do what perhaps she should. And she knows that, and she revels in it in a lot of ways. She can be incredibly brutal. She's had a hard life in the fact that she comes from a very poor family. She had her feet bound and broken and bound by her family at a young age, which is seen to be the way that women in this culture have to be presented to the world for marriage and for their future. And so she is in excruciating pain all the time. She can't walk by herself in the first book. She is in a wheelchair, or she has to be helped. But what probably attracted to me in the first place, this is a book about mechs and kaiju. Sort of Pacific Rim meets the Handmaiden's Tale is how it's described in the blurb. And so she finds she has the ability to get into one of these mechs and take it through its various forms and co-pilot it with a male. And the problem in this world is that the male pilot is the dominant pilot, and the female pilot, who becomes one of his concubines, doesn't have a very long life expectancy. Let's put it like that. And her sister went through this. Her sister died, and she has set herself to become a co-pilot, to become a concubine, just so she can enact revenge. And in any other novel, that would be the story in itself, but that's just the beginning. That's just the catalyst. And as I say, it features amazing mechs. I'm a big fan of entire. It all probably started with Transformers for me back in the day. My first, like many of us in the West, my first experience of giant robots that based on Japanese toys, and that's continued through my love of mechs. And then obviously Pacific Rim, I did a lot of work on Pacific Rim and graphic novels over the last few years. So yeah, absolutely loved this, burnt through it. It was amazing, brilliant characters, really surprising romances, really surprising relationships. Finished it, and before I knew what I was doing, I'd ordered the second book, which arrived the next day, or the day after, I think, Heavenly Tyrant, and I've just burned through that as well. It's a chunky old book. This one takes the story in a completely different way to you than what you expect. There's new characters, a new character introduced in the end of Iron Widow, who plays a major part in our hero's story in the second book, and changes her trajectory completely. And in this one, you get far more into the politics of the culture, the history of the culture, how it was put together, why it resembles in a lot of ways an ancient Chinese culture, and what the wider ramifications for the universe are. So yeah, there's a third book on the way apparently. I hope so, because it ends with the words "to be continued." And after, near enough 900 pages, I need to know what happens next. So those were the two books I read recently in series, science fiction, fantasy. Love them, properly love them. We'll be looking for the third one. And I then started change genre completely. Gone to a library book I picked up, The Skeleton Army by Alice Hawkins. This is a crime novel. It's a Victorian crime novel set in Oxford in 1882. So complete change of pace from giant mechs and monsters. Skeleton Army is, for people who don't know, was a real organisation. I grew up in the Salvation Army when I was a kid. I come from a Salvation Army family. I don't go to the army anymore, but haven't done for years. But it's still very much part of how I grew up. And my family went back pretty much all the way to the beginning of the organisation. And what a lot of people don't realise is when the Salvation Army was first starting up in the Victorian era, they obviously started work with people who were on the streets, did a lot of social worked with people where alcoholism was a very big problem. And they're a Christian organisation, so they were literally trying to bring salvation, trying to get these people out of the pubs, out of the gin houses, breaking their addiction, converting them to Christianity, because that's what the Salvation Army was about and still is. But there was a lot of opposition to this. Sometimes it came from the breweries, who obviously saw their future earnings disappearing. Other times it came from different avenues as well. People who thought this new upstart religious denomination that had sprung out, the Methodists, was a threat to their way of life. So the Skeleton Army was a group of people who literally set out to break up Salvation Army meetings, to break up marches, to break up people going to the pubs and preaching and selling literature, and in many cases attacked and killed members of the Salvation Army. So this is a crime novel that basically starts with a murder. Someone who has just been converted to the Salvation Army, who's given up drink, is on their way home, and is killed, brutally killed. Everyone who knows them, it just assumes they've backslid and they've gone back to drinking, because that's what they always have in the past. And they find a note pinned to the corpse saying, "This is a message from the Skeleton Army, leave Oxford, or we'll strike again." So I'm looking forward to this. It's been a few months since I've read a crime novel. I had this out for a few weeks now from the library, and I'm going to give it a go next, and I will let you know what I think. So there you go. That was my first reading book blog vlog thing. I will come up with a better name for it, and I hope it was okay. I hope it wasn't too rambling. Let me know what you're reading in the comments. Let me know if you've read any of these books, if you have any books that are like these, both like the Iron Widow books, like Skeleton Army, historical crime, if you've got any recommendations as well. And hopefully I'll see you again for more book talk. Cheerio.